we've got here is failure to communicate. Some people you just can't reach, and I don't like it any more than you.
With all the information at our fingertips, how can we, the people, can become more knowledgeable and then accountable? We must step out of the information age and into the accountability age. Welcome to the Great Internet Debates Hot Topic, Hot Potato, Roundtable Discussion, where we get new takes on the hot topics of the times weekly. I'm your host, JB Cohen, aka the Jaster, and tonight is June 2nd, 2021. Let's start baking this potato. This is a bullpen of talent brewing and stewing here, and for the making of our pilot debate game show. But now, let's get your notepads out and your oven mitts on, and let's get ready to take your bite out of this hot potato coming your way. Memorial Day weekend was just here. I hope y'all had a good one. Um, Either honoring the fallen or those still living. I want to go around and say hi to everybody here on the call and ask how your Memorial Day was, and if you had a barbecue or not, or if you went to the cemetery and honored the fallen. JR, I know you're a service member. I'm going to go to you first. How you doing, sir? Welcome.
I'm doing very good. Thank you very much. I had a wonderful, peaceful, relaxing day at home on Memorial Day, and I'm thankful of my freedom, and I feel sorry for the veterans that didn't make it home. So I kept them in close spirit all day. I mean, I do that any day, every day anyway. So it was just a humbling mood, and I just relaxed at home. I was watching hockey, just chilling out.
Good. Well, thank you for your service, and yeah, I mean, it's a day to honor those that have fallen and made the ultimate sacrifice. I get it. I've helped those killed in action honor flag program for a number of years out in Moss Landing, and we've had some Gold Star parents on the call on the hot topic hot potato in the past, and maybe they'll come back. Stevie P, how you doing, sir? I don't know if you're a veteran or not, but welcome to the
no,
call.
I'm just a veteran of the War of Marriage. My dad was Navy, Korea. My brother went through Paris Island as a Marine. I did not take the military route. I was 18 when Jimmy Carter was the president. And if you remember way back when, he abolished the draft. So I was in that 4-year period where I didn't have to get a draft card. My Memorial Day, I was actually born on traditional Memorial Day, which is May 30th. I look at Memorial Day a little differently because it is my birthday, but I honor my mother for having me. But I also know that in this country that, we do have a lot of military out there who have helped us be who we are today, and pretty much guarantees that I'm going to wake up tomorrow in my own bed. And for that, I am thankful every day.
Right on. Stevie P, thank you very much. And I want to say happy belated birthday and happy belated Mother's Day.
How do you spell that, Jay?
Michael Houston, welcome to the call. I don't know if you're a veteran either. Go ahead.
I'm a veteran of the peace movement. I'm that generation that stopped the Vietnam War, or so we thought. And then I got to go see Ireland and see what civil unrest looks like after started civil rights movement and went into bombing. And that was very crazy. And I went down to Nicaragua and saw a successful revolution and schools built and clinics built and events. So it seems like it's not quite so progressive. Some of the same people that from then are still running the place. And so it makes you worry a bit. I did what I love to do. I got to play music in a market, and it's lovely to be in a free country. I don't think we're going to go into civil war. I think people know better. Anybody who thinks about it or has anything they don't want to lose, destroying everything really sucks.
True. Amen. Thank you for that. Harley, how you doing? Welcome to the call.
I'm doing good. Memorial Day for me was just kind of another day. I don't have anything against people who are in war. I don't have anything against people who are veterans. But in general, I don't really feel that I'm like a pro-state person. And I feel like being in war in general is kind of, I don't know, it's like you're allowing yourself to be a tool of the state. So not really a fan.
Yeah, I remember working at the military surplus store, and I was able to catch some different stories from different people going through memories that they were kind of reminiscing. And there was one gentleman I remember talking to, and he told me a story where he was they helped build a church, or not a church, a school. I'm sorry, they helped build a school, and they were protecting the school, and they were watching, guarding the school for a period of time. And then, they saw kids go to the school and everything. And then, for whatever reason, they were ordered to leave that area. And within hours, days, whatever it was, all of that was dismantled, blown up, whatever. And I'm sure there's many, 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 many stories like that, and it's just a waste of our taxpayer money, plus along everything else. What the waste of the people, the waste of the education, waste of time, energy spent. And I don't know if anybody has any other story to share. Jr., you've been in.
Well, that's part of the community relations of being. When I was overseas, I spent 10 years overseas, and when you're not fighting, you're helping the local people out, and you're going and doing volunteer work, helping kids that have no parents, and supporting things, and bringing people on the base, and having open day, friendship day, where people can come on and see things on the base, and you have a big barbecue, just so you can get along with the host nation, because you're relying on host nation support because it's a strategic position you are. In my case, it was over in the Pacific Ocean. So we had to strengthen ourselves. We were always looking at North Korea. So we had to make friends with all the host nations, Japanese, Filipinos, the Thais, and we trained with them as well and exchanged ideas and information and technology to a certain degree. But as he had just said, you're a tool of the state. And I felt like I was a tool of the state anyway. So I volunteered to go in because I wanted education and training that would help me throughout the rest of my life. So, and of course, you're on call 24 hours a day. Any given time, someone could say, hey, grab a rifle, defend a hill. You could get shot, you could die. It could happen. It could happen. Thankfully, it didn't happen. But I'm just happy that I survived 20 years. I don't know how I did it, but I guess I was lucky, being at the right place at the right time. So I'm very fortunate. I'm very, I feel honored that I was allowed to be part of such a great thing as our military. It was an honor to serve. It really was, because of what they were able to do for me. But yes, there's a lot of ugly things that get done. Like you said, days after something gets constructed, it's blown to smithereens. What's that all about? Well, because it was a dog and pony show to begin with. It was just for a photo opportunity, so some visiting dignitary could have his photo taken in front of the new school that was just built, and then it all gets dismantled within 2 or 3 days. What can you say? I mean, that's all part of the plans that you're not involved in. You only have to just do the cleanup and then go, because we're occupying forces, first and foremost. We're occupying. So I don't know what else to add to that, Jay. That's a lot.
Well, I just want to say that you can also use the military as a tool also. And it says my internet's unstable, and you did use it as a tool for yourself, and you sharpened your blade, and you came out stronger as a result, right, JR?
Oh yeah, it's part of you accept the challenges they throw at you, and sometimes you hate it, and you go weeks, months without getting a good night's sleep, sometimes 3 hours here, 2 hours there, and it all catches up to you, and you feel like you're about to die, and then something comes over your body, and you're good to go again. And you chill out, you take some vacation time, leave time, whatever, get away, come back, and you plug away for another tour of duty. But it paid the bills and paid for my education. It was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I grew up in a big family in New York, and by the time I was ready to go to college, there was no money left for me to go to college, so I didn't have a choice. You know, I was not going to be flipping hamburgers and pumping gas to get through college. That wasn't going to be my choice in 1980. So I was like, I think I'm going in the military. So I went in the Marines, and then after 4 years of combat training, I joined Navy Intel because I said, at least I have a fighting chance on an aircraft carrier, you know? So I got the best of both worlds. I really did.
Good. Glad you served and glad you're here to share. Hold on. So, you know, I have a flag here, and I would like to take a minute before the sun blazes me out here. Ironically, I need more. I was gonna ask for a moment of silence right now while I was fixing that, and to honor the fallen. So let's go ahead and do that for right now. Thank you. Joe Biden is our first sitting president to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And he said today, and I'm going to paraphrase, the story was told in silence in a cloak of darkness. Through darkness hides much, it erases nothing. Only the truth can come, healing and justice and repair. Facing it, and that isn't enough. And I don't know, you know, we have to make some beginnings. So, is it enough? Is it time for reparations in 2021? Is 2021 going to be the year of this height of the accountability age? You know, they're bringing up the public nuisance law to help correct these wrongs from the past. And I mean, this was over 100 years ago, and the survivors and the descendants are having some great lawyers working with them, and it's pretty amazing. Let's see, the NAACP is fighting for racial equality and more erasing the student debt for a lot of people there. Maybe side note, but it's part of the program there. And but how do you guys feel about all that? What's happened 100 years ago, and what they're trying to do to fix the wrong? Michael, you're a historian.
Well, it was just horrific. I mean, it was a massacre that went down, and if it's what little I guess I'm the last generation of Irish Americans who are still angry about the British Empire and the famine and that whole set of carry on, you know, and what was done there is just so obscene. I mean, they're just hunting people down and murdering them. The people there was NPR had a show on a nice lady, African American she was to Queens, and she was a tax lady, and she was no sound of the tax structure. Pretty much guarantees white people have a better setup in life than black people. It goes on and on, you know, with, you know, real estate access, the schools, the historic school stuff. So where we are is in a very horrific state. That lived in during Obama, the book The New Jim Crow comes out. So African Americans get longer jail sentences, lower income, greater risks, just to stay alive. Just thinking of one of my little East Salinas stories. I was teaching an after school club, and one of the older brothers was coming out of the Alvarez High School, named after a vet. And I was saying, you could go into like Iraq, you could get killed there. And you can get killed around here. That the murders are way up. Oakland hit its 100 last week. And that's just so many horrible things out of our racial heritage. And I just remember the last time I was in the local Elks talking to a white supremacist, and it was very, very that white people were disappeared. My daughter's a social worker and the Livermore Veterans Administration. And she was saying, you should have just told him that the rarer people get, the more their value goes up to collectors. But he wasn't up for it, man. So yeah, the people that lost out that would have been millionaires now, that, you know, and then the depression hits. So it was they you know, family wealth built up over a couple of generations was just dissolved. And as I celebrate Veterans Day, I know that my American family would hold officers standing and never go to war from the Civil War on. You could buy your way out, you could weasel, you know. So the privileged class stuff is, you know, we're lucky to be us and be here sharing a bit, but you know, how to do reparations, that's a tough call. Alex Haley lied. Kunta Kinte was not his relation at all. So on we go.
Michael, Harley, you have anything to say there?
I'm kind of in the same boat. There's a lot of systemic issues and a lot of historical problems that we've had. So I don't necessarily disagree with reparations, but I don't know. You know, I don't know if that's the best option. I don't know how that looks. But it is something.
The formula? What's the formula for that? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good start. We'll leave it at that.
Righting the wrongs is the first start. You know, like the all the different laws that are written against the blacks. Let's change those for starters, right? And
yeah,
they got a good jump on Harley. Did you catch the one where the freeway, you know, that Black Wall Street was burned down?
Oh yeah, Black Wall Street.
And every building they run a freeway through it, and what was, I don't know, 20 block areas is down to, you know, 2 blocks, 3. So it's horrific. You know, it was a ripoff. How to get the best value for Afro-Americans and people surviving and that whole atmosphere of Tulsa and anywhere in the U.S. It's a good one. You know, education is one of the ones they throw it up a lot. But this, you know, when FDR was built, they were building the houses, and the lower jobs, farm workers and domestic help, were excluded from Social Security and unemployment. When the housing stuff came in, again, it was designed. The Dixiecrats did their work, and they were nasty.
Thank you, Stevie P. Reparations.
100 years ago. So yeah, reparation. I mean, what is the formula? What do we do as a country besides honor them and feel bad and learn from it and not have that happen again? When you start opening up your wallet and you start handing money out, you're just going to have a line of everyone else who wants to get paid out for reparation. I could tell you a sad story about how government screwed me over when I lost my house, how John Laird, Sam Farr, all these guys who have specialists in their pocket. No, the government wasn't going to step in and help. FEMA wasn't going to help because they screwed up and they were rewriting their rules, and I was punished. We were punished in Santa Cruz County.
Wait. You built your house on a cliff.
It was built. I bought it. It's a thing where, you know, if this happened, and it did, it happened 100 years ago, it's a disgrace. It's an embarrassment to our country. You know, it's an embarrassment. And what they did, why wasn't this taken care of? So the narrative doesn't come up today. We're still trying to figure it out. This has been 100 years. Where is the conversation over the last 100 years to help these families? Now there's a couple people left, or they're all incredibly old. What do you do for them? What do you do for their families who weren't even around? You know, their grandchildren, great-grandchildren. What do you do? Yeah, their lives were obviously changed. They were robbed of wealth. Well, guess what? A lot of people have been robbed of wealth. But what do we do today, 100 years later, to make sure, and the best thing we could do is to educate and to make sure these things don't happen again. That's the best thing we could do. They can't happen again.
Right. And the education aspect of it is a part of understanding what was done and correct what was done so that it's corrected so that it doesn't continue happening against the people in any community where these laws were written in the past. Jr., did you chime in
I
here?
didn't comment, but I noticed how Biden waited till the 100-year mark was a perfect 100 years, and now he's talking about it. Why weren't we talking about this 20 years ago, 50 years ago?
He was vice president.
And he brings it up now, and it's important. At least we finally brought it up. I didn't even know about it. That's how uneducated I am, and I have a college degree. I'd never heard of it until it was on the news the other day. And I went, you got to be kidding me. Not a single person was convicted. Not a single person was arrested, And I said, oh, this looks like an inside job and a little cover story. And then over time it faded and someone brought up the Great Depression and that wiped everything out. So it was all just buried in the rubble. And here it is 100 years later. And you wonder, did somebody dig this up as a public relations stunt for the Biden powerhouse to get a little bit of popularity going? So I thought about that and I go, that's a little cynical, but that's the way my mind operates. But again, education is everything. It should never happen again. And if the right people that are held accountable, that hold power, do what they're supposed to do, it won't happen again.
How about get the grandchildren, great-grandchildren of the families who lived in the community 100 years ago with the families that were affected? Let's get them together and let them have a beer together. Let them get to know each other. You talked about being overseas in the Pacific and getting to know these other cultures, working with them, defending them, hanging out with them. I mean, have a beer with these people.
Absolutely.
Get to know someone. Sit down and get to know them. If you don't like someone, it's probably because you don't know them and you're afraid of them because you're stupid and ignorant. Get to know them because you're going to find out that it's all the same shit. Have a beer with them and walk away. Everyone's going to be smarter and happier, and no one's going to hurt each other.
Exactly right. Exactly. When I was in Thailand, these guys had a map on the wall. It was in the 90s. And these guys had a map on the wall. It said 1963 on it. And I go, wait a second. And I printed one off of a computer. It was about 8 feet wide and 10 feet tall. And I said, here, use this one. It's 1994 edition. They were so ecstatic. They couldn't believe it. It's like I gave them a piece of real estate for free. And it was a piece of paper, and it was up to date. And I went, this is, what your country looks like in a full scale map. And, here's the terrain and here's the contour lines and everything. But again, what did they do? They invited me out for a cup of coffee. It wasn't beer, but it was cool. I got to meet these guys and they were interested in what life was like for me in New York and all these other things. And I said, wow, these guys are as normal and as sane as we are. They're the same as us, so I agree. That's a good idea. Sit down and have a beer with them. As long as we're all of drinking age, right?
Jay, can I do a quick one? How education will be the panacea, but we've noticed Heald College and whatnot, some of these places have gone under. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the Colombian author, says when excrement becomes valuable, buttholes, the poor will not have buttholes. So the game keeps shifting. How you get it right. Cheaters do prosper.
You come from a background of education. What, is there rewriting history books and they're talking about changing curriculum? How do you write this story? Who writes the story? Who fact checks the story? How do they introduce it? And at what age do they introduce it in a classroom situation? Or do they offer this as a level of education once you reach college, as an elective? Where do you introduce this in education?
Can I say great question, Jay?
Great
question.
Great question.
The educational textbook companies are, do have real historians, but the state legislatures decide what gets in. So when they want to repress this stuff in Texas, and they don't want to talk about the slavery ever happened, or don't want to talk about anything embarrassing, or not stop celebrating the Civil War, that the publishing companies have real scholars, but and if you want to start up, you've got, lots of children's literature. Michelle Obama's working on it. Kamala Harris's niece is writing really lovely stories. There's lots of great materials out there and it's, PBS does it. You start seeing this. It's amazing. This year, what good did it do? Black Lives Matter? I don't know, but a lot of people that of color and of different orientations are getting on TV ads and whatnot. So there's, things it is not Leave It to Beaver world exclusively anymore. And it's not just The Life of Riley. So, I think we're getting a little more real, and there is a way to develop a legitimate curriculum, not based on rage, just based on humanity and truth and family. And, what do you do when my pal, Pam Weston was a prison guard in Soledad. And her experience was guys that would get in Black Panthers or whatever, they'd get their GDEs, they'd go through all the hoops. They didn't know the right answers for the parole board, and they do extra years inside. So there's, the redemptive quality. There's this nice book on Only Mercy, and it's been into a film, but at the last chapter that's not in the film is this Black lady whose nephew was murdered by another kid. It's at the courthouse when they're using DNA instead of just witnesses, because witnesses can't necessarily discriminate who's who if it's a different racial set, and DNA is real evidence. This lady was a stone catcher. Let he or she is without sin cast the first stone. She's out there catching them and trying to give, all right, your worst moment happened. You're in jail. You're paying for what you've done. Should that be the end of your life? And that happens before you had a frontal lobe develop. Well, it's so, yeah. Am I calling for the license of murderers? No, but I'm thinking second chances. We all get them, and boy, white people sure get them a lot more than people of color do.
True that. Stevie
Hey,
P.
Marvin.
Hey Marvin, welcome to the show. Stevie P and JR. I know
Thank
that
you.
you other two guys, maybe Harley, I don't know. Do you remember when you were in high school or history classes? Do you ever remember learning about the Holocaust? Do you ever remember learning about World War II?
I
How
did.
many-
Yes, I did.
Was it a
Absolutely.
week? Was it 1 week of study?
No, it was a whole semester.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah, it was a week
That's
for
good.
us.
Well, there's a lot. See, some of them there's a week. See, a lot of times people don't even know what the hell happened with the Holocaust. That's why they think it's fake, because they don't
Well,
study it.
and there's a new
Another
thing.
thing-
called the internet. You could do your own research, and if the topic comes up, that's the beauty. We had to go to libraries. We had to read books. We had to take it for granted that what we read was accurate. Now, with all this information on the internet, if you want to know about something, you got it right on your phone, you got it right on your laptop, your tablet. You can go and find out lots of information. So when we talk about education, the education isn't just in the classroom. It's not just about curriculum. It's about your life. You really want to know something and you want to know about it, go out and look for it. And my thing is learn from both sides, because what you read sometimes isn't always accurate. Read as much as you can, because there's going to be different points of view out there. So when we were in school, the textbooks were what it was, the outlines were what they were. And now as they want to make changes, I don't know if it's good or bad. And I don't think we should suppress information, but there's so much information out there. And if they can't teach it in the school, they can definitely introduce different things, but you can always go out and find it on your own instead of gaming. The information's out there. What's more important, killing zombies or just being a little more well-rounded? than killing zombies?
That's no way to speak of Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, calling him a zombie again.
I just, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good to go, Marv.
I want to tell you, when I was in school, I don't know how old the oldest guy here is, but when I was in school in American history, they taught us about the Tulsa Massacre. The problem has been, since I was in school, and most of my schooling came out of the teacher's mouth. Thank God, because I had this dyslexia, and they didn't know what dyslexia was back then. And I spent a lot of time in the principal's office as a bad boy, because I used to tell the teachers that the numbers and letters would dance around on the page. But back then, in American history, I learned about the Tulsa Massacre. And I learned about a lot of things. And then when they came out with textbooks, and I don't want to alienate a lot of people on this call, but just think about the majority of people in America. And these textbooks were written by the majority of people in America. They weren't Black, they weren't Asian, they weren't Jewish. They were the same people that are right now behind QAnon, the evangelicals. And they wrote these textbooks, and they became standard across the United States. And so they left out a whole lot of history that people don't know about today. I mean, Jay brought up the fact about the Holocaust. Today, a lot of these kids, they don't know about the Holocaust. They don't know even about the Civil War, a lot of them. You know, it's really sad. Harley's shaking his head. But it's really sad of the current textbooks that they're using. You know, it's really sad. I'm sorry to say that. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I don't think it's the majority of kids who aren't learning about World War II or the Civil War or the Revolutionary War or stuff like that. What I think it is there's a lot of inconsistency, right? It's how funded that school is. And a lot of these poorer schools, they're bad, but some of these other schools are good. Like my school, I was in a town of 3,000 people, wasn't a big school. I learned all this stuff. So it wasn't new to me. I learned about World War II. I learned about Nazis, the Russians, you know, the USSR, all that stuff. But in college, I took a history class, and there was a student who didn't even know that Canada was another country. So
Yeah.
It's such a huge gap of knowledge. And I think that maybe there just needs to be more standardization. And as for Marv saying, you know, it's these textbooks are all made by the same people. It's not even that, is that it's all the same textbooks. We all get McGraw-Hill. It's always McGraw-Hill. So yeah, that's all I gotta say. Maybe
I just want to say something to Harley. Harley, the thing is, there was only 3,000 people in your town. And those 3,000 people were all different, from different areas, different lineages. I don't know, but I came from a small town too. There were 6,000 people in my town, and they were all different lineages. I mean, we must have represented 100 different countries. And therefore, when we went to school, everybody learned about each other. And that's why I want to get our World Peace Park up and running, because people, they don't know about each other. In a small town, you know everybody. I mean, they have to teach everybody all about each other. But in these big towns and these big schools, they got 10,000 kids, you know, they don't care.
Well, I'm okay with the big cities. And, you know, I lived in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We were an inner city, I was an inner city kid, and then we moved out to the suburbs, and then we moved up to the Poconos, went to a very, very small school. And it's funny and yet true, when you have these small communities, there was a family called the Countermans. And if you were local, they called you a Cutterman, a cud, which meant incest. So the tree doesn't fork sometimes in these small cities in certain states over the last 100, 200 years. So when you talk about education, do you get a better, you should, if you're in a small school like that, you should get a better education because you have small classes. You should be able to challenge, ask better questions, and you're not in school with 35, 40 kids in each class. Unfortunately, that is not the case. And, you know, the education system is what it is. There are some changes that obviously need to be made, but I don't feel I got a bad education. And part of education isn't just what you learn in school, it's the socialization, it's the tolerance you learn, it's acceptance or not acceptance and how to be accepted. There's a lot of things that go on in our growth years. And just because you're in a big school doesn't mean you are robbed of an education.
Let me tell you something. In Pennsylvania, you heard of the Amish because they're in Pennsylvania. How many people outside of Pennsylvania know anything about what Amish is?
They're in Nebraska.
Yeah, we got them here in Iowa.
The Mennonites.
I was watching Schitt's Creek last night, and they went. The son ran off to an Amish community for 3 days. And
Really, the Amish aren't watching that show. Yeah. The Amish aren't watching that show.
Good,
Hey.
clever stuff.
JR. Hey,
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned earlier about, and I think even Stevie P, it was 100 years ago. You know, why didn't they do it back then? Why didn't they fix it back then? Let's talk about January 6th and what's going on. You know what I mean? We haven't been able to have a commission. We haven't been able to impeach the guy. And then people are going to ask 100 years from now going, what the hell happened back then? How come they didn't do anything?
Well,
And
we
then
did.
we're not doing it. I mean, we're not.
Well, wait a
We
second.
tried, but we
We
didn't.
know what happened. And you know what? We don't start there. We go back further, and let's talk about what happened in Portland, Seattle, all these other cities that had their issues before, you know, they tried to take over the Capitol building. So again, you can't just start in our Capitol building. You can't.
Steve, can we look at the tiny percentage of Antifa destructors compared to the right that the FBI is looking at as the largest terror threat to the United States these days? Yeah, there are a bunch of crazy anarchists out there, but the numbers are tiny, and it's horrific what they've done to the Black Lives Matter movement. They dropped support by 14% by just doing this destructive stuff. And I know these guys. These are not the people that, you know, heroically take on the FBI in the city of San Diego and are gunned down trying to do it. And they're not very happy about Fred Hampton getting murdered. And there's been nasty stuff all through. So you've got to, as you say, you've got to educate yourself. And have you caught the one where it's a false flag in DC on January 6th that is really Antifa pretending to be Trumpies? That's a good one of many.
Yeah, there's so many stories out there. And what we saw on television was bad. Without a doubt, it was bad. But we saw a lot of bad stuff on TV. We really did. We saw cities burning. We see Chicago, you know, there are so many like murders and shit going down there. And yet, you know, you got the mayor saying, no, everything's cool. Portland, Seattle, same thing, it's cool. It's not cool. And none of it was cool. So, you know, what happened in Washington, D.C. was horrific, but we need to.
What was the intent? What was the intent for Portland? What were the intents behind all that commotion up there? Do you
I
remember?
have no idea.
Wait, do you remember?
Have you educated yourself properly, Esteban?
You don't just walk in a street and take it over. If you want to have a peaceful protest, that's fine. Protest is good, you know, and getting your voice out there is good. To hold businesses and people hostage like that or threaten people coming into your area is not good. People dying, people getting sick, people getting hurt. Not
talking
good.
about the autonomous zone? What are we talking about?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit
I
lost.
think he's talking about that kid from Illinois who shot the guy up in Wisconsin.
That's not good.
The three of them.
Oh yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse is what you're talking about, or
We're bouncing around. We're bouncing around. I apologize. We're bouncing around. The hot topic is into the
Has that effect
hot
on
popcorn right now. Popcorn. Okay, so all right. So we talked about the Tulsa, Oklahoma, and what's going on there, and reparations last. And we were talking a little bit about. I don't know. Did we get there yet? Maybe I brought it up earlier. Okay. Well, let's talk about peace in the Middle East. How do you say his name?
Netanyahu.
God, I can't say it. Anyway, Shalom, the guy. Anyway, so I'm not sure what's going on, but a few hours ago they're talking about getting rid of them and doing the whole change of Rooney. Uh, Marvin, you got Our World Peace Park. I know you had some issues recently, but have you been keeping abreast of that today?
I just heard on the news just before I got on this call that that they I think eight diverse organizations, they got together. They want to get Netanyahu out, but the guy, and they said because they want to promote peace in the Middle East, and yet they said that the new guy that wants to take over, he doesn't want to have peace in the Middle East. He doesn't want to have a second state. He doesn't want to have a dual program. So I don't understand how they're going to have peace by putting Netanyahu out. I just can't comprehend what the hell is going on over there.
Well, we're here, we're not there. We're getting bits and pieces of it through media channels. By the time the information gets to us, it's filtered and we don't know what's going on.
I know what's going on. You know what's going on? These children, when they're born, are taught to hate.
Yes.
The same thing as in North Korea, the same thing as Iran, the same thing as in a lot of other countries. They're taught to hate other people instead of to learn how to like themselves, and then they can like everybody else. But they're taught hate instead of those Palestinians being taught to be peaceful with their neighbors. I think most Israelis would like to have peace with their neighbors. When I was in Israel a couple of years ago, I saw people from all different walks of life. They were all Jewish people who came from